I don't want to make any mistakes, but I'm also going to make mistakes. If you're tired of the old cookie cutter marketing advice and want to take your personal brand to the next level with bold, actionable strategies that truly reflect you, you're in the right place. Let's untangle your marketing mayhem with Zoe, the video confidence coach, on the Unboring Your Brand podcast. Unboring Your Brand was recorded on Wadawurrung land. Yes, it may feel like something that's going to bring you a bit of a tear to your eye, but do not worry, these common mistakes regarding your personal brand or when you first start tackling your personal brand are things that can be easily remedied once you know them ahead of time. So let's get on to today's podcast episode. So this was from a conversation that I had yonks ago with a friend of mine, Mark. And essentially it was from a bigger conversation that we were having about some common mistakes that people have when building their personal brand and obviously how can they be avoided. But ultimately they wanted to know what they can learn from these mistakes. They're very much take what other people have done, learn from their mistakes so you can improve on your own type of person. And as you can imagine, when you first start tackling your personal brand, because again, we all have one, we all have a reputation. And when you first start tackling it, as in taking control of it, I should say, it starts off with a bang. You start really going at it. You start getting some maybe professional photos done. You start writing some bios. You start actively working on your personal brand in whatever industry, niche, or area you wish to focus. And again, wherever you wish to help and serve those people. That's what it's about, folks. But then you make an oopsie. Whoops. You stumble. You maybe get a dramatic eye roll from some of the people that you're trying to serve, or maybe even people who you're not trying to serve, who are not your people. That is also definitely something that can definitely happen. And finally, you eventually sort it out, but it still made you feel like you're behind. And that is something that I've had to remind both myself and many of my clients. When you are not behind, you are not set on anyone's timeline. You're all set up to your own timeline. And for me, I'm very perfectionistic, so my timeline is always very far ahead of me, but I digress. So in that time, there is no shame in the game. We all make mistakes and we all stuff up somewhere along the line. So for you, what are some of these common mistakes regarding your personal brand that you can avoid making if you are starting out, or even if you are well in the weeds regarding your personal brand, things that you can avoid doing if you haven't run into these mistakes of yourself? And again, all of these mistakes I have done myself, and I've had clients who've done this as well. So do not worry if you come across these, or if you haven't just yet, it's okay. So the first one I want to get into is copying someone else's voice. So when I say voice, a lot of people term that usually into the actual voice that people are using when they speak. But what I mean, usually when it comes to personal branding or marketing, a voice is what is known as an identifying signature and tone. How do you speak? How do you communicate, both in written and in verbal format? Is the way that you speak very different to the way that you write? Are the words that you use common between the two? And when you are copying someone else's voice, so say, for example, a good example of this was someone I worked with yonks ago, even before I think I technically started the video confidence coach, I was working with someone who was very much a Gary Vee fanboy. So Gary Vee is this, gentleman whose family ran a winery, and then he took over their marketing team and has in turn built an entire marketing empire from that. He's very much a remnant of the hustle culture, the constantly grind, which unfortunately a lot of people are still in. So if you are in that, my apologies. Take a break, take a breather on me. You can do that. And he is the type of person who is always go, constantly pushing, which again is admirable, but also not very sustainable for anyone outside of who maybe doesn't have the wealth, finance, and backing that he does. And this person that I was working with was someone who had recently finished university, but had that mentality and also was having the voice of Gary Vee, physically having the accent. As someone who was born and raised in Australia, was having a North American accent. Not Canadian. I mean America, New York, but not quite New York, New Jersey. I don't entirely know where Gary Vee is from. my apologies, but that type of accent, like to the point where he was beginning to speak in Gary Vee-isms, like using terminologies and taglines from him when he was trying to build his own brand himself. So in those moments, being able to see what someone else is doing and they are doing amazingly, and especially when they're doing it online where it's accessible to you and you think, I want to be just like them. That is great. That is awesome. It is awesome to have role models, people who are well into their craft and well into their personal branding journey to see, I want to be like them. Awesome. But remember, they are not you. And this might feel a little bit awkward, but you are ultimately going to sound worse and very inauthentic because your personal brand is a reflection of you. When you fix your voice, you fix your vibe. And the words that you actually use are a good place to start. But also keeping in mind that the people who are very successful that you come across in no matter which fashion, online or in person, these people have been working incredibly hard to get to where they are. And you may be just starting your journey, or maybe someone you've been working very far into your personal branding journey. You are still yourself. You have not had the opportunities that they have, and in turn, utilizing their voice to appeal to their audience may make you seem as like a copycat or inauthentic to the people that you're ultimately there to serve. So taking that time to think about, okay, what are the way that I like to speak and the way that I feel comfortable speaking? What taglines or voices that I use? Am I very outgoing in my personality? Like me, I like bright, I like glitter, I like crazy makeup, I like hair that is everywhere. Or are you someone who's a bit more reserved, a bit more subtle? But how do you plan to stand out with your voice? That is the question. Second thing is trying to be everywhere at once. Like the movie with the sausage fingers, you cannot be everywhere at once because we don't know how the ultimate timelines that any of us have fallen into, to my knowledge. Feel free to quote me on that. If you have, I'd love to hear you down in the comments. When posting on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Pinterest, and your mum's Facebook group, it can feel overwhelming, and that's not even just all the options. You can, when trying to be everywhere at once, you burn out faster than a candle in the wind. R.I.P. Diana. So in those moments, when you feel like you have to be everywhere at once, because again, role models and other people who are much further in their personal branding journey have done this, you in turn should starting off with picking one or two platforms that you feel comfortable with, that you have either an established audience or something that you can regularly see yourself contributing to and spending time on, that feels manageable, and growing from there. Because your audience are going to help dictate not just your branding voice, but also what you end up posting on these platforms. You are there to solve their problems and to serve them. Even if it is just saying, I have been where you've been, here is how I fixed the problem, here is your solution. If that's what you're doing, or you could be someone in the personal branding space who is in the same journey as the people that you are trying to get on board, but you're a couple of steps ahead. Either way, making sure that you're able to be consistent on the platforms that you are on is more important than being everywhere at once. Third mistake is overthinking your niche. So overthinking the group of people that you're trying to get on board, overthinking your industry. So the best way that I think about this is I help burnt out plant-based entrepreneurs in their 30s who are journaling by moonlight. Okay, but that is a sentence, but it also helps you figure out that might be a little bit too specific and you might be thinking a bit too hard on the type of people that you can get on board. Sure, internationally, I'm sure that you can get a good handful of people that fit that exact description. But for everyone else who does not fit that exact description, they may not feel catered to your message or your personal branding, even though you can definitely help them and serve them. So what can you do to expand that little box, especially that comfort box for them, and start with what you're good at and love what you're working with. Let it evolve from there. And if you want to start getting specific later on, because that helps you create your content, that helps you personalize your messaging, awesome. But that's not where you start with. You start with something a little broader, and then you can start niching down once you get more interaction, communication, back and forth with your audience. Because again, you're not doing it for them, So you're not doing it for you, you're doing it for them. Maybe your personal brand, but you're ultimately doing it for them. Mistake number 4 is waiting for perfection. This is something that I can attest to, that I do an awful lot. And hi, my mentors and business coaches. Hi. I do have a tendency of waiting for perfection to kick in before I release something out into the world. I'm waiting for the 17th time to tweak a bit of fonts or get my bio just right, because I've had maybe 5 to 6 identity crises in that time and I've shifted it too often. And in the meantime, I am not helping who I am there to help with. I am not putting them first, and it's just crickets. People don't know who I am. People don't see me as an industry leader. People don't see me as a solution to their problem because I'm not there. So to fix that, I just do it. I get started. I lower my BFM, and you can check out my podcast about that. My Bare Effing Minimum. I lower that down, what my minimum is. Because remember, your minimum is usually a lot higher than everyone else thinks it should be. So I lower that down because imperfection still gets results. I can refine as I go. And as long as I'm attracting the right people, I'm serving the right people, then I'm doing my job. And hopefully you are too, by taking action. And the last mistake that I want to get onto in today's podcast is only talking about yourself. As you can imagine, when you are building a personal brand, it can be inherently you're falling into the pit trap and the fall of talking about yourself, because that's where your experience comes from, I should say. But your brand isn't about you. And your content that is all about me, I, myself and I, people will just scroll past because they don't care about you. They care about them. They care about their problems. They want solutions to their problems, their needs. So in turn, you need to focus on how you help others. Yes, you are there because you're the one ultimately doing the action, but it's their result that is coming first. Make the audience, be it in your content, in the way that you communicate, and the way that you address people face to face, make that audience feel seen and understood before you even come into the equation. Yes, your experience helps, but that should come after you have put them on the pedestal that they need. So ultimately, what can we learn from all of this? We can start off by reflecting on what has worked and what hasn't, and what is maybe just noise when it comes to the work that you've already done with your personal brand. You can start by adjusting one thing at a time. Don't feel the need to take off the whole picnic table blanket. You just need to start with one thing. No need to go through a full rebrand. Just start things one by one. And I recommend starting yourself with some really easy goals that you can achieve to get yourself in that momentum phase. And if you've already got an audience or a group of people that your personal brand has already catered to, start asking them questions. What do they enjoy? And what can you achieve? And also, what can you shockingly achieve for them? So then they are shocked by your ingenuity and hopefully your patience. And most importantly, laugh at these mistakes. If any of these mistakes have resonated with you, feel free to reach out at vcc.training, or you can check out on any of our social medias where I'll be posting this episode for sure. We've all been there. And we all have to get our stripes somewhere, right? So as I was finishing up with Mark, and in the end, your personal brand is more about consistency than perfection, because people need to see that you're there. It's okay to be messy. It's okay to not be absolutely perfect all the time. You're allowed to be brilliant. You're allowed to be you. And Mark felt that was a little bit too cliched, but ultimately, he still listened to me for like 20 minutes. Thank you for listening or watching Unboring Your Brand. You can find detailed show notes with tools, offers, and episode transcriptions. Just click the first link in the description or go to vcc.training/podcast. Get involved and ask me anything about personal branding, video strategy, or just a friendly small business chat via my email, g'day@vcc.training. That is gday@vcc.training. The Video Confidence Coach would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which I record my podcast. I pay my respects to their elders past and present. I stand with the traditional custodians of these lands in working towards a more equal future. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Look forward to me chatting at you next week, superstars.